Hello, Peter here again with another episode of Outdoor Explorer. Today is going to be part 2 in the 3-part episode about the remaining 3 locks from the Blackstone Canal River Network. During the last episode we took a look at the Millville Lock. Tonight we're going to be taking a look at the Skull Rock Lock. So for tonight's journey, what I have with me, GoPro wrist strap with spare battery. Because it's about 6 o'clock, I have an hour and a half or so of light left. Always being careful. Headlamp. Along with an alternate source of light being some glow sticks. Emergency blanket. Emergency poncho. Sharp multi-use knife. Canteen full of water. That's about 30 ounces there. That should be enough. But if it's not, something I always have with my hiking pack is Coleman water purification tablets. These take about a half hour to get the water purified and leave an iodine taste, which is why they also come with this pH+. And what this does is it removes the iodine taste. It takes about 3 minutes. It's always something good to have in an emergency. Okay, so right now I am standing in the parking area, I guess, not really a lot, for Skull Rock Lock. We get the sign actually right in front of me there. Something important to note about this trail, it once again is family friendly like all of them. It's maintained by the Department of Conservation and Recreation. I'm walking closer to the sign and I turn and I see this path right off the parking lot. You don't want to go down that path. That path will actually lead you the entirely wrong direction. I'll admit the first time I did it, that's the way I went. I assumed the parking lot was the right way to go. But instead you're going to come up to the road, look both ways, and cross. You see a little area ahead of me here. You're going to pop the guardrail, and this will bring you to the actual trail. Once we're over here, you can tell, oh shit, this is a trail. And there you go. Very easy to access. Actually, just up that ways a bit, if I follow through that clear area, is the new Uxbridge Town High School. But we're going to take a turn to the left. Looks a little overgrown. This tree was actually not here last time I was here, so it has recently fallen. We're going to walk up this way. A little narrow right now, a little bit overgrown, but not bad. There's a lot of bug life here. You want to use a good bug repellent, bug spray. Make sure you don't get bit. Right now, I don't see a lot of bugs, but I've also applied the proper product. And the trail does meander on like this for a little bit. It's probably about a half mile in, half mile out for this trail to get to this lock location. Okay, so we're a little bit down the path. I've turned to the left-hand side. What you see in front of you is the Blackstone River. The river right now is actually very low. About 2 months ago, I went down this in a rowboat with my hiking buddy Ryan. Much, much higher. A lot of these logs and branches we coasted right over. Now to the right side of the path, you're going to see a divot. A bunch of branches, trees down, and some drying up mud on the bottom. That is the Blackstone Canal. In this section, the canal is no longer diverted from the river, and as you'll see when we get to the lock, it is actually all just river. The lock is no longer, just like the Millville Lock, water doesn't flow through it anymore. The river flows by it, but the canal in this portion of the river is done. What just startled me up there, we had a turkey up in the tree, which brings me to wildlife at this location. This location has quite a bit of different varied wildlife. Down in the river, I've seen great blue herons. I've also seen coyotes and foxes in this area, which makes me want to suggest that you go to Walmart, sporting goods store. Most of those places are going to be able to give you or sell you, rephrase that, It's a little bell in a mesh bag. As you hike, it makes a little jingle, makes some noise, and what's going to happen is it's going to scare away wildlife. That turkey was scared of my voice. But I strongly suggest one of those bells if you're going to get serious about hiking, as it's going to help you out and keep you safe. Coming up the path here, we're about to run into the first bit of history and scenery that this trail has to offer. What you can see in front of me possibly still is a bit of a stone wall kind of looking thing. And across the canal, that's the canal down there. Canal there, you can see a tree grew into it. Get a better look from over here. You see something on the other side that's collapsed. I know in my previous video I stated that the lock had collapsed into the canal and it's in deplorable state. This is not the lock. From right up here, up top on this section, to the other side, there used to be a footbridge that went across the canal. That is no longer used. I mean, clearly it's gone. And that is what that collapsed bit of stonework is. And what this tells me is I'm about a quarter mile in, and I have about a quarter mile left to get to the lock. Basic path of the trail is generally like this once you get past the first little bit there with the ferns on the side. Pretty flat, lots of roots. You're going to be careful there. And a little bit dips like the one I just took. Does veer away for a little bit from the canal. If you look across, there's a parallel path over there. The lock itself is actually on that side. But this is the easiest way in. That is the path I generally take on the way out. Has a little bit more of a hill to it. Gives a little bit more of a technical challenge during the hike. Right now we're actually getting to a low point in the canal, which will be right up ahead, and we'll be crossing over. Alright, so now I've gotten to that dip in the canal that I was speaking of. Here's the path we're just walking on. It actually turns and goes right down in. And you can see this is not even attached to the river anymore. Sorry, there's spiderweb in my face. It goes right down, fairly dry. If it's heavy rain, it's going to be a bit of a mud puddle down here. I have encountered about 2 inches of water through there, so plan your hike accordingly. If it's rained heavily in the last few days, you're going to avoid that. But right now, the canal is now on our right-hand side, and we are on our verge to coming up to the Skull Rock Lock. As we walk down this path, you can see some dirt bikes have used this in the past, not recently. It's a fairly well unused trail. I can see the beginnings of the lock to my right hand side. I'm going to turn and give you a view. If you see down there, you see the marble size chunk, or not marble necessarily, could be granite, whatever rock they used. The chunks and the rock in the canal bit there, you can see the big chunks of the canal, big chunks on the edge that have already broken and cracked and fallen away. The lock went to about there, and I'm still walking beside it, and it's all very similar up to that point. Now I'm about to get to the most recognizable portion of the lock, which is right here. I'm going to try to stay as close away from the edge as I can, because it's not too stable. I've actually slidden right down in there before. You can tell the river is low because there is no water in here. Usually the water goes at least up to that stone right there. Once again, you see big chunks of, I want to say it is granite that you see part of the lock. If you look down there, you can see as the lock came in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually come around and try to show you the front view, like we saw the front of the Millville lock. Of the 3 locks that are still visible from this lock network, this is the worst preserved. It is falling apart. I don't know if at this point, there's almost nothing that can be done to preserve this lock. But right now, the path does go forward. I haven't actually gone down that far. We'll save that for another video. But all right, I'm hoping you can see this here. Straight ahead of me, if you look down, you can see some red flowers. Follow it to the rocks. Those rocks are the beginning portion of the lock. The river is right there. Water used to be in here, and they've since merged. But the river's right there. The canal used to go right there. On that side right there, you can see the one side of it, and on this side the other. And if you look down the middle, you can see the pile of rocks that used to be the Skull Rock Lock. Alright, just a little bit further up here, I'm trying to get you a little bit of a better view. Right down in front of me there, you can see the rocks I was talking about by the red flowers earlier. That is the first side, and across from it directly is the second. And you can see all the bits and pieces of the lock that have fallen into the canal past there. It's unfortunate that this lock is in such terrible condition, as it represents such a strong part of this area's history. These locks enabled the Industrial Revolution to come to the Blackstone Valley. You could export goods down to Providence where they could go out to ships, and you could get supplies back up from the ships. That was the only way you were going to do it. It was the cheapest, most economical. You had the horse-drawn barges that would bring these up the canals. There'd be a path on both sides. But as it goes now, we don't have much left. We are losing our history. Alright, once again, now I'm at the dip in the canal where I crossed over initially, right through there. I have a choice. I can go down that way, the path I already came, or I can go this way, which is the way I'm choosing to go. I usually go this way. Mix it up a bit. You get to see something different. Now, up over the hill, right up here, is actually the new Uxbridge Town High School. So, although this is DCR's land, and hunting is permitted on DCR land, not today because today is a Sunday, hunting will most likely never be seen in this area. I've hiked this trail multiple times. Never once have I seen a person hunting. Mainly because it's close to the road on the one side, on the other side it's the school. No one's dumb enough to bring a gun down here. Okay, I'm still on my way hiking back out from Skull Rock Lock. And I'm on the other side of the canal at this point. The canal is on my right hand side. Earlier, I showed you what remained of a footbridge. We're coming up on that. Right in front of me here is the side that's collapsed down. And turning this way, you can get a better view of the side that's still there. There's big gaps in the stone. And I wouldn't be surprised if it fell down on its own right. But for the time being, it stands there. And it's about the quarter-mile mark in from the start of the trailhead. As well as being the quarter-mile mark as I use it in the beginning of the trailhead, that old footbridge that I have behind us, on this side of the trail, I also use as the marker for the start of the incline in this path. If you can see ahead of me, I'm going up a steady hill, not horribly steep, but it's got a significantly larger grade than the other side. With this one, shouldn't be a problem for most to get up. Very simple. When you look on both sides, like this way, you can see some tires all set out in a loop. And there's also some fencing set up on the other side, just down the hill a little bit. Being so close to the school, this area is used to train for the cross-country meets for the Uxbridge High. And part of it is the path for the cross-country runners. So, if you're running down a weekday during the school year, hiking after maybe 3 o'clock or so, after the school hours are generally out, be aware that it is possible that you might encounter quite a few runners on this path. And I'm actually going to turn to my left right now And if you look carefully through the trees, you should see the backside of the new Uxbridge High School. Alright, so at this point in time, I've just about completed my exit from the path. I'm almost back to the road. I'd like to say thank you for coming on this journey with me. And I hope to see you next time when we explore the Goat Hill Lock in the third part of this three-part series on the remaining locks of the Blackstone Canal. Once again, thank you very much.